Good morning, my dear friends. Today I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey that's actually a bit sentimental, because I'd like to tell you about 5 plants without which I can't imagine my garden. I'm sure there are many of you who could say the same, because these aren't really fancy plants. These are really basic plants, but as I mentioned, a garden without them, at least in my case, would be really sad. So I encourage you to stay. 5 plants that do great in Polish conditions and look great in almost any garden. My dear friends, are you already subscribing to this channel? If your answer is no, then I really encourage you to do so. It's truly a great honor for me if you decide to subscribe to my channel among this jungle of various content. I try to talk about gardens in an accessible way, and from your comments I gather that it works. If you want to see for yourself and stay up to date, I definitely encourage you to subscribe. Turn on the notification bell and let me know in the comments if you like my content. Are there any fans of the color purple in the garden here? I am absolutely a fan myself. Maybe not a very orthodox one, but in my opinion, a garden should be based on plants in the color purple. That's why 3 of the plants I'll be talking about today are purple. It's not without reason that I came to this flower bed, because all 3 of these plants are here. What's more, they actually bloom at the same time and complement each other perfectly. So if you want a recipe for a super purple flower bed with just 3 plants, which is at its most beautiful in May, then stay tuned and I'll tell you all about it. The first plant is one that you should plant a year earlier, or actually preferably in the fall. These are ornamental alliums. It's not just one ornamental allium, but a whole range of ornamental allium varieties. I have about 8 different varieties myself, and they're really great because, for example, they're a bit different from tulips. Because ornamental alliums, once you plant them, you really don't have to dig them up or take care of them. They multiply on their own, and there are more and more of them. Of course, from time to time you can dig them up, dry the bulbs, and replant them, because then they'll be stronger and healthier. But the effect of creating a clump of many flowers in one place, like in this case, is a great result that you can achieve after 2 or 3 seasons. In my garden I have various ornamental alliums: Purple Rain, Purple Sensation, Ambassador, some Allium Christophi. Then we have Summer Drama, Alliums. We also have drumstick alliums. Actually, I once made a video about all these alliums for you. The link is somewhere here and in the description of this video. So alliums are the foundation, the base of the May and June garden. Why? Because there are summer drama alliums. Here we have these beautiful bulbs sticking out, which bloom the latest. They start blooming in the second half of June and look great. So if we plan the arrangement of these ornamental alliums well in the flower bed, we'll actually have them for about a month and a half. There's Purple Sensation and Purple Rain, which start first, then Ambassadors, Gladiators, then Drumstick Alliums, Christophi, and finally Summer Drama of the ones I have in my garden. And it's really a wonderful effect and a beautiful color in every flower bed. And what should you combine them with? Well, that's coming up in a moment. Plant number 2, also purple, or actually more of a lilac color. A plant I haven't talked about for a long time, probably because it was growing here, but it wasn't doing very well, since there used to be beautiful banana trees here that froze this year. But now this plant is showing its beauty in all its glory. This is Dame's Rocket, a lilac purple perennial that actually blooms in a biennial cycle. First the rosette grows, and then in the following year it produces these flowers. So if you have it in your flower bed, it self-seeds very well and will bloom in this biennial cycle. You can make it bloom every year, of course, because sometimes last year's plants also bloom. It's undemanding and grows beautifully in sunny, lovely spots. And above all, most importantly, it's very spectacular and has a beautiful fragrance, especially in the evening. So if you have it planted somewhere near your terrace, in the evening the scent on the terrace is amazing. Let me know if you know Dame's Rocket, because it also comes in white. The next plant, my third one, is one I can't imagine my garden without. It's also one of many because I'm talking about sage here. However, a special place in my garden is taken by sage in the Caradonna variety, an amazing sage that blooms beautifully. And if you take proper care of it and prune it shortly after it blooms, after it shows its full beauty, then we prune it, do the so-called Chelsea chop, and soon it puts out new shoots, and then we prune it again, and then it puts out new shoots again. So it blooms 3 times in a season. If you leave it blooming like that, of course it will self-seed. I only leave it after the second or third cut, and then it self-seeds without any problem. It looks beautiful in sunny spots, especially when combined with those 2 plants I mentioned. Look, Ornamental Garlic, Dame's Rocket, and Caradonna Sage. 3 different shades of purple. The sage is dark, really vibrant. The garlic, because it has a slightly looser form, the color spreads out a bit. And then there's the Dame's Rocket, which is the lightest, lilac colored. Each of them has a completely different flower shape, so it looks great. Sage is basically trouble-free. Caradonna grows up to 60 or 70 centimeters. I love it in this form. Look, lots of beautiful bunches, flower stems that are still not fully developed. They're actually about 3 or 4 centimeters, just a delicate eggplant-like gentle purple. And later, when they start to bloom, the spikes stretch out and it turns a really rich purple. The tiny flowers attract insects, and it looks fantastic because the foliage is so healthy, lush and full. It's honey for my heart, especially around Mother's Day. It's really a fantastic plant. In a moment I'll trim it, and let's say at the beginning of July it will bloom again. After 3 blooming plants, it's time for plants that are for special tasks. The first one is Alchemilla mollis. Listen, this is a plant that fills every space, and in this shaded garden, in this semi-shaded garden, it looks excellent. It's healthy and basically resistant to everything. It likes, well, a bit more moisture rather than less. It has beautiful leaves which look even better after a bit of rain because the drops settle on those leaves. And then it blooms in a very interesting way, although not very spectacularly, but still very interesting. The flowers are small, panicle-shaped, lime yellow-green, which grow above those beautiful clumps of leaves. But be careful, it's a plant that really self-seeds a lot and really spreads a lot. It looks great in these shaded spots as a border for flower beds, just not in very low ones, because as you can see they're quite tall in such a place, and they've basically taken over this flower bed completely. It's a good solution, you know, with garlic. If we plant more garlic here, there are some in the back too, before they put out their leaves and start growing, and as you know, with garlic the leaves dry out very quickly. But here you can hardly see the leaves anymore, you just see the flowers, so it's a great combination because that purple with such a lush green looks really good. Ladies' Mantle works very well, as I mentioned, in places where there's less sun, but here, where it's sunny all day, it also does quite well. And the last group of plants without which I can't really imagine any garden. They've been with me in every garden since I was a child. In the first garden I made, in my parents' garden and in clients' gardens. If it's possible, I plant this plant. It changes a lot during the season because at the beginning of the season you can't really see it. Later, suddenly these little spikes or thorns appear, and then literally in a moment, depending on the variety you have, it turns into a beautiful big lush green. Funkia or Hosta is my biggest specimen, 5 years old. On top of that, it blooms beautifully and its flowers are also fragrant. But Funkia or Hosta comes in so many varieties, from miniature ones to huge varieties. Any place that has more shade is a place where Funkia or Hosta will do really well. Of course, snails like it, but before the snails appear, Hosta often grows beautifully. One thing that can harm them is, for example, frost during the cold gardener's days. This year there wasn't any, so it looks fantastic. A lot has already been said about their advantages. I have also mentioned hostas several times. I'm getting ready to record an episode about hostas, about the varieties, about their characteristic features. Let me know if you would like such an episode, because then I will look for some cool varieties to talk about. An additional advantage is that if you have a large hosta or a smaller one, weeds don't grow underneath because it shades almost everything. And I don't need to tell you, it basically sucks up all the water. Any of you hosta fans, do you grow them? Let me know which variety you like the most. Do you like the miniature ones, the ones with a distinctive pattern on the leaf, or do you prefer the solid colored ones that take up a lot of space? The 5 plants I told you about are must-haves in my garden. Of course, there are a few more, but these ones in May and early June create such a spectacular effect. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next episode. Subtitles.